Welcome to the One Player Podcast, the show on solitaire board games. I'm your host, Albert, and this is episode 397.
70 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation.
Or two.
Very possibly.
Hi, Julius. How are you doing?
It's only one nation, though, because we play solo games.
They're all nations are good nations, Julius. All nations are good nations, that's for sure.
Hello, Albert.
How are you?
I'm doing great. A little bit pushed for time with Passover coming up, but other than that, everything's doing just great.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, it's always busy around here, that's for sure. I've not had much free time lately. And maybe that's why we're bringing an old game back to the table. It's easier to pull out an old game than learn a new one every time.
Yeah, especially as one I don't even own a copy of. I own a copy of Nations Dice, but we're talking about Nations today, the Big Brother version.
I think we should compare and contrast, because why not? Because you haven't played the Big Brother. Have you played the Big Brother or not at all?
I've not.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we should compare and contrast as best we can.
There's not much point to compare and contrast when I've not played the bigger one, so we're just going to talk about it. I'm going to snipe all my comments.
Fair enough. Well, if you have played Nations, you're ready to play, or if you played the dice game, you're ready to play the board game. You've got a lot of the basic concepts down. It's just a little bit more to it. That's all. So Nations, the board game, is the original game. Later on, Nations, the dice game, was made during the dice game craze, I would say, because Nations was pretty successful. And I, as we both, I think, agree, the dice game is a pretty good implementation.
I do find it funny you comment, I don't think they're doing the dice game craze anymore. I think we're past that.
Well, Nations, the dice game came out like 8-10 years ago. It's been a while. Definitely pre-pandemic.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. The board game came out, I think, around 2013, but I'm not sure exactly. Don't quote me on it. Yeah, this is a game. I love this game. I have played it, well, not as much as I'd like to, because it's a big game. It's hard to get out. But it is definitely fun. It is like Nations. This is a game where you're drafting things from a central board to build your civilization across 4 epochs, whatever you want to pronounce it. You go through not a Stone Age. What are the ages called? You go through a Bronze Age, a medieval period, a Renaissance, and then the modern age. And each age, you're gaining cards to build up your empire to give you different abilities over time. In board game, you're buying cards. In the card game, in the dice game, you're buying tiles, but they're almost the same. Yeah, this is. I was more ready to have a discussion about this, so this is entertaining. We're not teaching you about the game, but it's been a while since we played it. This game, the two games are similar. I'm assuming everybody knows I play Nations, a dice game, because why not? And we're going to go from there. The board game things that are different. There's more resource types to deal with. You're not just rolling dice. You're actually gaining resources each turn. You're gaining work. You have workers. You start with 5.
Which is essentially what dice are. Dice is an upgraded version of a resource collection.
Yes, but I may be wrong, but I think there's more types. Well, there's 4 resources in the board game, and I think the dice has 4 resource sides.
Well, it's the same thing. There's food, stone, gold,
food,
and swords. It's the same resources.
So it's the same resources, yeah. Swords. Well, no.
And books. Swords and books.
Okay.
You're right. There's 5 resources.
Swords is not a resource the same way in the board game. So there's things that definitely work different. There's 4 standard resources, which is gold, food, coal or stone, and books. The gold is used to buy tiles. The stone is used to place workers on the cards you build, and on the cards you have bought, and the food is used to feed the workers that you have. Pretty roughly. So there's already differences right here. I think in the board game, you're buying things differently, and you're not using the resources the same way. You don't have workers to worry about in the dice game. I'm saying the wrong thing over and over, aren't I? That's funny. So, I mean, one of the biggest difference I think in the board game and the dice game is the board game. You got the workers that you play on the tiles on the cards you buy. You buy these cards, you put them on your board. They don't give you those resources automatically every turn. They're just potential resources you're gonna get. You now have to put workers on that tile card, and now that you have a worker on it, you will gain the resources every round. What's cool is if you put a second worker on it, you gain twice as many resources. If you put 3 workers, you get 3 times the number of resources. So that is different. You got to plan more about what cards you're gonna buy, and what workers you're gonna put where, and do you have enough workers? You are managing your resources in this game instead of just rolling dice and hoping you get the right stuff this time. So you're gaining resources every turn and hoping they last across many turns. You're like, yeah, I need to save these things for later, or that kind of thing, which happens way more than in the dice game, right? The dice game has a lot of
I feel
luck.
like I have to push back on
push
the dice game. It's in the dice game. It's not a matter that you're just rolling it and trusting it to luck. The dice game has so much mitigation in terms of what your expectation for your resources is, the number of rerolls that you have, the fact that theoretically you can combine resources to create wild resources, and that one, like a die face. If you have dice that just aren't usable, you can use the die faces, but rerolls are a thing. You get free rerolls.
Right.
There's a lot of times where you can get resources in the dice game where the resources are not dice, they're fixed chits. So
yes,
many different types of times you can get a chit that doesn't require a reroll. It's just gold, or it's just stone, or whatever the thing is. So the dice game is not fully up to luck. It's not like you've added pure randomness when you're going to the dice game.
It's not pure, but it does have randomness. It does have luck. I mean, you have the rerolls, and you reroll. You hope the things come out. If they don't, there's ways to deal with it. And like you said, there's different things to deal with it. There's also, you use some dice, and then you buy a new tile, and you replace one that has spent dice. Suddenly, you get more dice back. So there's different ways to manipulate that. The board game, the only real randomness in it is when it might be one or two more things. It's really when you place the cards at the beginning of the round, which cards come up and which things are available to buy. All your resources are very fixed, and you know how many resources you're going to get every single round. So the dice game definitely has some luck in it. As you said, can be mitigated. The board game has very, very little luck, and it is more thinky in each turn. You're not leaving anything up to chance, really, the same way. Now, granted, there are so many cards in the game, especially as you add in the different sets of cards, that there will be a lot of randomness in what could happen. You may have a game that has absolutely no wonders show up just because of the luck of the draw, or you may have another game with tons of wonders. And so that would influence what you end up doing, but your resources are very well managed, I would say. Well, I guess that depends on the player, but potentially well managed. How about that?
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a rather different game.
There's still you have that randomness also present in the dice game, where the tiles that come out can also be randomly applied,
right?
Or randomly determined. Like different tiles give different access.
It definitely has some randomness in it. There is control. I'm just saying the board game feels less random than the dice game. There's more. It's more fixed in what you'll be doing.
Your resources are less random in the board game.
Yes, absolutely. And I think they even play a bigger role in the game. You're buying your workers at the beginning. You start with 5. You could buy up to 8 more. You could buy up to 1 per round. There's 8 rounds in the board game instead of the 4 like the dice game. There's 2 per epoch. And so you have 2 and then a scoring round for that epoch, and then you go into the next epoch. So you have 8 workers. You could buy up to 1 each round. So potentially, if you play really well, you may end up buying all 8 workers. The workers, you're either paying 4 of them. You could pay 3 food to gain a worker. The other 4, you could pay what's it called? Like stability sort of thing. I forget what it's called exactly, but you could pay that resource. The food is much easier to come by, I find, than the stability. And so that's trickier. So I'm finding when I'm playing, I'm buying the food guys first, and then the other ones later in the game as I've become more established and have a better engine going. But that's neither here nor there. So that's another difference. The war works very different. In the board game, when you buy it, you could buy armies, and they will give you combat points. As you know, at the beginning, I think they're worth like 2 points each. By the fourth age, they're getting they're like 9 points per army per worker that you place on that army card. And so they give you that you buy the armies, you put the units on them, but every time you put a unit on it, there's also a cost. For example, one army may cost you, I don't know, a food every round per unit that you have on it. When then there's also war cards that go on the board that you could buy. If somebody buys the war card, what happens is whoever bought it, the war rating is at their current war level, their current army level. Anybody that doesn't meet that goal loses and has to pay a penalty, which is listed on the card, which plus losing a victory point. Anybody that's above it, nothing happens. You fought the war fine. You had enough armies. So that's a little different. Wonders are a little bit different too, I think. I don't remember exactly how they work in the in the dice game right now, but you buy a wonder and then you have to hire engineers to build it. Once you've built it, that wonder is available for you for the rest of the game.
And it's the same type of thing in the dice game where you have to buy it and then you have to spend stone to build it.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. I didn't remember. Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly the same there. So those are some differences and some similarities. In the board game, it's designed for people with different skill levels, in that when you begin, everybody could pick their rank, like chieftain or keen, or there's 4 of them. I don't even know what they are. I've always used chieftain at the second from the bottom, and that affects how difficult the game is for you. So if you're playing with a novice, you may have them at a higher level than you, means they could get more resources every round to help offset their lack of skill. So that's pretty neat. It's the rules said something like it's intended to be a fun game. So you manipulate, you control that so everybody's having fun. It's not supposed to be a cutthroat tough game. At least that's the way I read that little passage in the rule, which I thought was funny because it definitely feels like a very cutthroat tough game. What else is there that's different that I want to tell you about between the two games? Oh, that there's more types of cards in the board game, right? There's the blue buildings, which is in the dice game also. There's the military cards. I think that's also in the dice game. Where is it? Yeah, there is. There's also the wonders that we talked about. There's colonies. That's also in the board game. You could get a colony if your armies are high enough. So a colony card will say, oh, you got to have, I don't know, say 5 armies. And if you have at least 5, you could get that card automatically by paying the cost in gold. All the cards are always paid for in gold, regardless of the type. There is, I forget what the gold cards are called, but there's gold cards. When you buy those, they automatically give you a couple resources, or instead, you could turn in some resources for victory points. There is battle cards that are gray. When you buy those, they would give you resources equal to the strength of your best army card that has a unit on it. So if that card is 7 points per unit, you will get 7 resources if you got that battle, regardless of how many units you had on it. And that can be pretty powerful too if you're able to get a lot of resources that way. That helps compensate for things. I think right there, those are some of the key differences. The advisors work a little differently. I think in the dice game, they give you little resource tokens like rerolls or maybe a gold. They represent a gold every turn. In the board game, they may give you resources, but they may do other things. There's one advisor that I think gives you 2 armies and also lowers the cost to buy armies, to put counters on or meeples on the battles or the army cards. Sorry, so they'll do things like that. And I actually
think that's probably a big benefit between the board game and the dice game, in that the advisors, your leaders, don't do more than just add an extra reroll token. The nations have some distinct differences, but all of the leaders just giving a reroll token consistently without much else interesting between them, and no real differences, feels a little bit lacking. It feels like they could have messed around with the resources at least a little bit more between the different ones, which they do a little bit in the expansion, but for the base game, that like none of them does anything like even a chit or a sword or anything.
Right. Yeah. So that's a good point. And that's not true. Not just for the advisors. A lot of the cards, say the wonders. Once you build them, you'll gain a benefit like resources, but some of them have special effects. Like some wonders will say, "Oh, if you ever lose a war, your wonder is destroyed," or other things like that. Or some may give you bonuses if you pass first, something happens. Um, because they're cards with text on them, and because there's more variety in how resources work in this game, they're able to make a lot more variety in all the different advisors and stuff. And I've really only played with the base cards that come in the game. There's 3 sets of cards, an intermediate and advanced, I guess, basically. And I think some of them also add more interaction and probably aggressive action. I haven't gone there yet, especially since I'm honestly going to play solo. The game, the solo game, it works differently. Also, you're not playing against anybody else. Well, there is an AI player. His goal is mainly to take the cards before you do, like in the dice game, and also to interact with the war in the other tracks. So maybe he's ahead of behind of you, but he never gets any victory points. Your goal is just to see how many points you could get, and then in the rule book, there's a little table saying, here's some historic leaders. This is how many points they probably would have scored. Can you beat these historic leaders? Are you better than Cleopatra at 30, who got 35 points? Or you're Julius Caesar that got some other number. That's I don't know. I've bested Cleopatra, but that's about it. I'm pretty low. So that I mean there we go. That's the game. This is a fun game. I like it. I like it more than the dice game. I like both, but I prefer the board game when I could get out. Way more thinky, way more careful planning about all your moves and stuff, and thinking about how you're going to gain your resources and do that. The flow is surprisingly easy and fast. It's still, if you're good at it and you've played it enough, you're probably finishing in 30 or 45 minutes. 30 be pretty fast. 45 is probably more normal. The first time playing it without having played it for a long time, an hour and a quarter maybe, probably not much more than that. The very very first time, I'd say an hour and a half. But once you've gotten some practice, you're getting it down to 45 minutes. I think the dice game is about half that generally, right? Like a 20-minute game, 30-minute game, even solo.
Something like that.
Yeah. This is a nice game. Big box. Now the drawback, of course, is you can't really find it anymore. It's out of print right now. Hopefully it comes back in, but what you gonna do? This is a fun game. I'm glad I got it back to the table again. I had a great time. Yeah.
And I think that the Nation's Dice game is a really fun version of the game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love that game too. And it's definitely way more accessible. I'm more likely to get that out than the big one because it's easier to play. It's lighter, and I'm not gonna teach the board game to some people. They're just gonna have no interest. My wife wouldn't have any interest in playing that game. She would probably play the dice game and enjoy it. They're just
where is the extra complexity coming from for that game? Because it seems like it really is not that much more complex than the dice game, because it's really the cards. For example, one of the easy ways I find to justify whether or not the game is more complex is the amount of text on any of the cards. And the cards don't have a whole lot of text on them. This isn't like a Terraforming Mars, for example. The cards are pretty basic in terms of how much icons, how much stuff is on them. So where's the complexity coming from?
Well, like I said, managing your resources is definitely more complex. The resources are going to be tighter in the board game than the dice game, because you're getting the dice and rolling, and you have whatever you rolled. In the board game, you have to make sure and get the right types of buildings all the time and that sort of thing, so that you have a variety of resources. It's a bigger effect than the dice game, because the dice game, if I buy a building that gives me a blue die, it's got better on the blue stuff, but it's still rolling other things. So that's fine. I may still be getting some gold to buy other tiles. In the board game, if I don't have tiles that are giving me gold, I'm just not getting gold. I got to figure out a way to get that.
But then nobody's getting gold.
It's less forgiving. Well, so if I've played a lot and you've never played, I may look at the board and say, I know I need to go for this immediately and that immediately. And you may not be aware of that, those kinds of choices. So I may immediately buy the good stuff, and you're suddenly stuck with things that are not as useful, just not knowing. The dice game is way more forgiving about that, because there's less variety. And again, you're managing your resources. Some people don't want to deal with that, having to worry about the resources and counting all your pennies and all that. Dice game, you just roll, and now I know what I got for the round. Next round, I'll roll again, and it'll be something the same or different. But here, it lingers. It very much lingers. And there's more cards, there's more text. There's gaining victory points. You got, the more powerful cards give you victory points, but it also depends on how many meeples you have on there. So if I put a meeple, the first meeple might be worth 1 point, the second 2, maybe the third and fourth are not worth anything. But other tiles will be different. Some other tiles might say, oh, you're going to get 2 points, especially in the fourth age, per meeple for the first 3, and then 1 point or something. So a lot more to think about, a lot of more things to consider. It is, again, very, very much more a thinky game. That's what I like about it. The solo game, another interesting thing is when you're playing solo, you set up all the cards. You always go first. You buy your tile, and then you roll the die. Whatever number you roll, you remove that entire column. The dice game, you only remove the lowest card from that column. So you're more likely to find that something you're hoping to buy is going to be gone in the board game very quickly. There's only 4 columns. If you roll a 5 or a 6, depending on the event card for the round, there'll be some effect that generally speaking, helps the AI, but maybe, or possibly takes away engineers. Like if you roll a 5, he might get more swords. If you roll a 6, he might get more books. Other tiles might say something like, if you roll a 5, he loses a sword or he loses a book. Or if you roll a 6, an engineer goes away. So there's fewer engineers available for you, as if he were buying them. So there's a little bit more variety in that too. But that whole taking the whole row, I don't know if I like it more or less, but it is interesting because really, yeah, the whole column disappears. The nice thing about that though is if he rolled a 3 and he took column 3, next time he rolls a 3, nothing happens, and it's like it's a nice relief. It's like, oh, thank goodness, because I was worried he was going to take something else I wanted. Though I mean, usually the AI does take something you want, right? That's how many times have you been playing the dice game and you're saying, I really need to get this tile from column 1 and this tile from column 2 for sure. I have to have that, and you buy one and then you roll and he gets the other. It's so frustrating.
Yeah,
it's fun, frustrating, but yeah, it's like he could roll anything but that number. Let's see what he rolls. Oh yeah, it's that number.
Yeah, well, that's just part of the game. And
yeah,
people do that in real life the same.
Oh, I know exactly. Yeah, and you may play with somebody who says, I know Julius needs that card very badly. He probably wants it, so I'm just gonna buy it because I could use it, and I can annoy him. And again, the board game does the same, but it does have that nice benefit that if he rolls the same column, because it's already empty for sure, nothing happens, and it's kind of a nice relief. It feels good when he rolls a blank column. So yeah, I mean, it's a great game. Either way, go out and play any of your nations. Just keep it to the boards, okay? We'll just do that.
Something
for now.
like that.
Yeah.
We'll leave the war games for another time, I suppose.
Yeah, such good games. Those are such good games, nations. All right.
Well, Albert, with that, I think we have seen the dawn and the rise of today's nations.
Yes.
Or the dawn and the dusk of today's nations, I suppose.
There we go. All right. And thank you, Julius. Until next time.
Have a great day. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening. We love feedback, so we love hearing from you. You can reach me at julius@oneplayerpodcast.com or JLBird on BGG, and Albert can be reached at albert@oneplayerpodcast.com or Fractalune on BGG. Our website is oneplayerpodcast.com with the number 1, and we're also on Twitter at oneplayerpodcast. The intro music is copyright Angus and can be found at jamendo.com. The transition music is copyright by Dan Elduce Pancaldi, whose page is at donpancaldi.com. The One Player Podcast is protected under a Creative Commons share-alike license. Thanks for listening.